Richard here, your electrician buddy. Today I'm taking on a project that's kind of out of my comfort zone, and yet it's something that I'm really looking forward to doing, and I'm hoping that maybe you'll be able to try this yourself. What I have in mind is I'm going to install some lights. Now, as I proceed through this video, I'm going to show you the techniques that I use and how I go about that. Now, because of being an electrician, I have to make sure that I can explain it in a way that helps you. And so I'm going to show you how I do the connections, how I test the connections, and how that hopefully you too can do the same thing. Now, what I'm about to do, you can actually already see because I've already recorded this. And so I'm going to link it with some of my other parts of the video as I put this together because I didn't know it was possible. And what it has to do with is some undercounter lights that you see right here, and also the overhead lights above me, right in this area here. I put a dimmer on them. So I'm going to show you, I'm inside my camper, and I'm going to show you how you can do this yourself. And also on top of it, if you enjoy this, please let me know. Please subscribe. And also if you have any questions, if you're wondering, how did he go about this? Because I'm not sure what the depth of your understanding is with this. And so please just ask. And if you see something you think I could do different, let me know. I have no problem. I think it's enjoyable because that's how you learn. So please follow along, and I think you're really going to enjoy this video. So I wanted to take you for a moment and show you what exactly that I did, and then I'm going to show you how I went about it. Underneath the counter here are these lights that I installed, and then off to the side, right there, I installed that dimmer. Now this is inside my camper, and it really was an enjoyable job. And just so you know, you can see that these lights are recessed, and so up in here, it's hollow in here. And so what I did was I ran some wires. They go right through here. And then I went through this. It's hollow under here too, so I had to run all the way through there. And then we daisy chained it in here, there to the last light. And then in regards to my overhead lights, which are the ones that are glaringly bright above us here, I wanted to cut the edge off of that. And so what I did was I installed a dimmer right there. And so you can see right here, here's the dimmer. And so I got it now where I can dim them down. I could even shut them off. But I want to show you how I did it, how I made the connections. And so as we go about this, what I'm about to do then is I'm going to remove the microwave again because I want you to see exactly how my connections went. So up inside here, you'll see the wires. I'll show you where I put my meter, the wire colors, and how I found the correct wire to go to. And so in the process of this, hopefully we'll show you how to do it safely and some of the things that we do. So let me get my meter, and I'm going to go ahead and pre-remove the microwave just because it'll get out of the way. And in doing that, what I do is I've got this number 2 little square head screwdriver, and it works perfectly for on these type of screws. And so they don't strip easy, and so I can just take them out. So let me go ahead and remove the microwave, and then I'm going to go get my meter, and I'm going to show you all the connections that we made so that you can do this yourself. So follow along, please. And again, please hit the like button. And I'd like to do some more videos like this. I've got some other projects I've done inside the camper, and I think it's one that you may want to try yourself. So follow along. Now I'm going to show you what we're up against. Along that wall right there, I want to try to drill through right up in here so I can make a channel all the way through there. So let's see what happens. Hopefully it works. Okay, Richard here again, your electrician buddy. And I want to let you know now I've got it ready to show you what I've done. You see behind me, I've removed the microwave and I've got all the wires exposed. And now I'm going to go through a process to show you how exactly I wired it. And in doing so, it's going to show you how to make the connections, how to do it safely, and hopefully, maybe it'll help you to set the mood inside your camper. So let me show you the connections and what we did here. So when you first look up in here, I know it looks like a jumbled up bunch of wires. That's why I thought it would be good. I'm going to show you how I tied into the wires back here, how that we went back over here to the dimmer, which is the back side of the dimmer, and then how we went through and installed our lights. So to me, the easiest way for me to explain it is I'm going to start at the very last light fixture. Now here's the light fixture that we used. And this is the one I ended up using. And you can see that it just clips in, fits up inside this hole right here. And there's just enough space for it to fit up in there, and it just looks really nice and neat. On the fixture itself, you'll notice that it has two wires, the black and the red. So the black wire is the one that I used, and that is my ground wire that I use throughout this system. So as you notice, I just tied on, I used a wire nut, and I just tied on to the black wire, and here's my white wire. Then I went to the next light over. I'll back up here so you can kind of see from there to there. Again, here's my black wire. And now I tie all my black wires together. So all the ground wires go together. Make sure when you do this connection that it's good and tight. That little wire nut, I'll show you another type of connection I use, and I did this just so you could see. And the red, and here's the red. The red in this situation is going to be my positive to the light. Then I go down to the next light, which is a daisy chain. So again, there's my red to all the whites, my black, all the blacks together, up and around, and here's my last one. Again, red with which is the positives all together, blacks is the negatives all together. Now if you recall when I did this, my whole idea was to run a wire through the cabinet. So up inside the cabinet itself here, see if I can do this. You can see where my wire goes up inside the hole there. See how it moves? So I drilled a hole through there. Then I took a longer bit and I went all the way through my cabinet through here. Went all the way up in through. So I had a hole that penetrated right up inside here. So my wires now are completely hid. So I'm going to back up. And so there they are. And now I'll show you how one of these lights clip in. So we'll just go to this first one here. So you just take your wires, you push it up inside there, and then you see how that goes. So then I just take my clip. Now it's kind of hard to do when I hold the camera, but I'm going to try it anyway. Just like so. I'll show you on another one. Push the wires out of the way. Go up in. One side. Pull the clip back just enough to clip it in. There it is. So we've got two. And then I'll proceed on through. And we'll do my last one. Do this one first, the next one. so. And then now my very last one. There it is. So now the next thing, now you see the holes there? I made sure that before I drilled the holes, I just put some like painter's tape up there so when I cut the holes, it wouldn't splinter the wood out. And so you can see how it looks up underneath there. Nice and neat. Then I put in my dimmer over here. I got a little dust right there. But anyway, let me show you how I wired the dimmer now. Now I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to show you the back side of this dimmer. And hopefully you can read that. And it shows the red wire is the 12 volts. Now this is the 12 volts that goes to the camper. The black wire is that same black wire you saw me use earlier. That is the one that goes to the black wire or the ground wire on the lights. And then the white wire is your switched wire, which goes to your light fixtures. And you can kind of see that on the little diagram, the way it shows there. So let me just show you, just so you visibly can see it as well. So right here, coming out of the wall, that's the black and white wire that comes from those light fixtures. And then now, here is the black and white wire coming out of there. And so you can see the white, that goes, as the switch says, that goes to the light fixtures. Now here is the black, which is the ground wire. And so you'll notice I have the ground wire to the light and also the ground wire that comes from the camper. And then my red, which goes off to the camper. So here is this wire here. There it is. Now we come over to all of this. So let me refocus my camera here, let it get resituated, and I'll show you how I went about these connections. This way you can make the connections yourself and make it safe. Now I'm going to show you the best I can. This wire here, that's the black and white wire here that came from my dimmer over there. So this is your ground and then your hot wire. Now, what I did was I noticed how they had on the camper, all these wires go together. And you know, it's got a little black mark on it and all. So what I ended up doing is I took my meter. Now on a meter itself, I needed to find the proper voltage. So if you look on the meter where it has a V with a squiggly line up and down, that stands for alternating current, AC. We're in a camper. This is 12 volts, so I use voltage with a solid line, direct voltage, DC voltage. So I switch it over there. Then I take my meter and I would put it on the ground up inside here. So I'll use this because on my meter, there's your common. So I go in there. Then up inside here, I notice that there's this red wire that loops, daisy chains from one switch to the next. That's letting me know this is where the power is coming in, and then it feeds off to various lights. For example, this light here. Okay, so now I know that that's where the power is. So if I take this and touch right there, you'll see my voltage. It says there it's 12.9 volts coming in, DC volts. So now I know, okay, this port right here, that was my grounded wire. So what I did then, because I didn't want to undo their connections, I just took one of the wires and I snipped it, and I used these little connectors here. And all these are, there's a little connector that you just strip your wire back just a little bit and it pushes up in. So here's the black wire that comes over, and now I've got a connection there. Now this other black wire, I'll show you what it is too, because that's one we added as well for the other dimmer. So there's our grounds. Now our hot wire, here we are again with the red wire, daisy chains from one switch to the next. So here it is. All I did was take that little loop, there was a loop that was there. I clipped it so I could make a connection. And just pushed it in, so now that loop continues on, and then I added that positive wire, which goes off to our dimmer over there. So that's how we found it. Now after I found out where my hot wire is, I went down to my box down below. And let's see if we can get this camera situated for that. So if you look down there, there's my circuit breaker box. And so inside here, and you can kind of see all the various loads that are up in there. Okay. On this particular camper, the actual fuse that actually shuts off the 12 volts for the system happens to be the very first one that's right up here. And so what I would do then is I would pull out that fuse. That way it would disengage the circuit, and that way you can be safe. So then we go back up to our project. Then I could go ahead and clip the wire like I did, put it in the connector, clip the wire like I did right here, and put it in the connector. Again, this right here with the black, that is my ground or negative. This is the positive. So once I put that together, I put my fuse back in, come back over, everything is ready. Then we come back over here, turn the switch on, and now we got our lights up underneath there. And so I can come back over here, hit the dimmer, and just dim it down where it feels comfortable to the eyes. And the reason I did this is because right here's the kitchen sink. You pull back a little bit. And when we're in our camper, especially at night, we're out camping, and what happens is the overhead light right here is actually behind the sink. So when you're in here working and these lights are off, and then all of a sudden you come in here and you're standing at the sink, you see a shadow starts happening. And it was getting to where it really is hard to see. So we wanted to improve the visibility, and on top of it, we love the way it looks. So there it is, the Undercounter lights, they're all flush and clean. And the particular style we used actually has it to where you could get really fancy. If you hold it in, shut it off, and then you push it again and just hold it for a little bit, they turn blue. And so it makes it nice for a little night light. So if I wanted to go around and make it really fancy. One more. So let me turn these overhead lights off here, and you can kind of see what it does. So Very nice. And it just makes a really nice subtle light. And so like at night, if you wanted to make it look really cozy, there you go. So now I'm going to show you the other dimmer switch that I put in. So let's go on down to where the fuse box is, the circuit breaker box, which is down here. I've already pre-opened the door. And as you look at this box, a good way to understand the way a camper is set up is you got two different voltage sources. Let me get down here where I can focus in on this. This side over here looks just like the breakers inside a house, and that's because this is your 110 side, this is your higher voltage, alternating current side. Then it goes through the power converter. This is your DC side. This is the side that also your battery can work off the battery. Now, on the light up there that I'm working on, I know that it happens to be this one right here, because where that little loop is goes to the switch, which controls the porch light. So if I was to pull this fuse out here, it'll shut off the power up there. So that's what I did, is I went in there, pulled out that fuse, it cut the power so that I could work on it without having to worry about shorting anything out. So you can see where that is. It's a little 15 amp fuse. Looks like it's put in there upside down, but that doesn't matter. So that's how you can make sure that it's safe. So once you've pulled that fuse, then you can clip the wires and make the connection. So let's go back up. So that's exactly what we did. We clipped the wires. Here's your ground. So we made those connections. And then there was that power that comes from the fuse itself, that top fuse. See that little daisy chain on the top of these? See, you can see how it would have looped from there to there to there. And so all I did was just clip one of those loops, put it into my connector, and then here is the power source going over, up and around to my dimmer, and that's where it goes on to that red wire from the dimmer. So this is the one that goes off over to that one right there. So hopefully you can make heads and tails of that. It doesn't look too much like spaghetti. And then again, here's our dimmer. The white wire here goes, as it mentions on the back of the switch, that goes to the power of the light, on the light itself. And then of course our grounds always tie together. So in this case, we got a ground that goes to the dimmer, a ground to the light, and the ground coming from the camper. So then we come around. Now we know, you can see our light works. And then there it is, and then we can dim it down. So let's go now and look at the other dimmer that we installed as well. So here's the other dimmer that we installed. And this dimmer here, this was for this light here. Now you can kind of see off in the distance, and I did it on purpose so you can see this. So that's the light, and there's a series of lights in the camper, in this part of the camper, with these bright LED lights. And it's the lighting level is such that I do have a video that actually explains this, about the way LEDs work. But this is the one we wanted a dimmer on. So here's the dimmer that we put in for it, and you can see that I can control it down. So let's go in the back and we'll show you how we hook that up. Okay, it's the same idea that we did for the other dimmer. Here's your black, that's your ground. And as you remember, this was that little cluster that we had tested already. So this here was the ground. And so I just clipped one of those wires. I added that little special connector, and here's the ground from the switch. And the back of the switch, it does tell you how to go about wiring. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. Okay. Then the red wire here, you'll notice I tied it onto the switch. Now this switch, this is the back, that switch right there, that's the back of that switch that controls those lights inside here. The top of this, the way it's daisy chained around, looped around, that's straight from the fuse box, straight from the fuses. So I come off the bottom side of that because now that switch can control the power to the dimmer. So that's why, like, if I'm going to reach around here, so if I hit that switch off, boom, the lights go off. Back on, you know, so there. So now power will go over here into my dimmer, comes out of the white wire, and this was the wire that was attached right there to the bottom of that switch. So power comes off the top, it's hot. Off the bottom here. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And if you got a question, please ask. I don't mind. I'll see if I can make it clearer for you. I can make a diagram. But hopefully that helps you. Then before I put my microwave back in, one of the things that I like doing is I got some tie wraps. I tie all my wires out of the way so that when we put it in and we slide the microwave back in, you don't have wires in the way. So I can take and put tie wraps in here, and it'll make it to where it'll just be nice, neat, and clean, and they don't get tied up, don't get caught up on the microwave. So hopefully that'll work out good for you. And here's our lights. So let me put the microwave back in, and then I'll tell you a few notes of things that I learned, because I did learn a couple things too when it comes to wiring of this. So let me finish up. I wanted to mention something as well. Now you see how all the wires are, it is unsightly looking. But remember, even if you're tying it up, if you're tying up all these wires, don't tie them too tight. And the reason for that is because as a camper moves down the road, things are going to move a little bit. All this wiring, and it should be, all the wiring in here is stranded wire, and they do that on purpose because of vibration. And so you want to make sure that we don't make it so tight that something will just vibrate loose. So it's better to have a little slack in there. And even though it's unsightly looking, it's actually, it's not bad to have it in us like that. Now I do like it neater looking. And so that's why I'll go in here and I'll add just a couple of tie wraps just to make it nice and neat up in there, but we don't want it so tight that the wires will vibrate loose. So just keep that in mind when you're working on a camper. Well, let me go over a few things I learned about the video. While I was making this, one of the things I thought about is, for example, the electrical wire that I needed between the various lights on those recessed lights. Now, because of being 12 volts, you're thinking of automotive. And so, of course, that's what I did. I went to an auto parts store. And when you go there and you look for wiring, you know, they're going to take you and they're going to show you this is what happened. And I found just the single rolls of wire, and they would run $10, $12 for a little roll of wire, single strand, which means then you would need 2 rolls. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous because of what I was going to have to pay just for a little bit of wire. And then I remembered they also have lighting kits for wiring up trailer lights. So I go over there and look at the trailer light wiring, and it has 4 wires that come in that roll. They're all bound together, and you can just pull 2 off, you know, and so I was able to separate those wires. And so what it did was it was a lot cheaper. The wires were already bound together, and I could pick the colors I wanted. And that's what I did. And it saved me money, and it also made it easier for me to do the installation. So keep that in mind. When you're going to buy wire, you may have to look at a few different sources. And hopefully that's a nice little tidbit that'll help you if you attempt this project or any other project inside, for example, a camper. Now, hopefully this video helped you. Like I say, I have other projects I've done on the camper. I installed it's a really nice remote control max air fan, and I wanted it to be wired in such a way that when my lights turned off, my fan would not be affected. So I had to do some little finagling to figure out how am I going to get a wire there, and I can show you how I did that. But I need your input. If you have any questions, please ask. If you have an input to help me, believe me, I know I don't know everything, but I would love the input. So feel free to write a comment. Please subscribe, and please hit the like button. It's helping me try to get this channel going. I know it's been a while. I'm Richard, your electrician buddy, and thanks so much for watching. See you on the next video.